Good morning, everybody. Please continue eating, but I want to welcome you and thank you for coming to the 2018 Call to Action Coalition Breakfast. And this is our 30th anniversary, so welcome. First, I'd like to introduce Reverend Nick Bonsky. Nick is an assistant pastor at the Orchard Methodist Church to give us the invocation. Nick?
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Let us pray. Holy and loving God, as we gather here this morning on this crisp fall day, we give you thanks. We give you thanks for this opportunity that we can gather and we can work towards making change in our community, that we can show love to those who feel unloved, that we can bring justice to those who seek justice. We ask that you continue to bless this food into our bodies. We ask that you bless those who have prepared it, from the hands in the kitchen to the hands in the field. Their blessing has truly strengthened us. We continue to give you thanks, O God. We continue to give you thanks for this community and for these relationships we are going to build here today. May these conversations be fruitful, and may our hearts be centered on love. We pray all this in your holy and loving name. Amen.
Thank you, Nick. Now I'd like to invite up Fire Chief John Unruh to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good morning, everybody. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, John. I would like everyone from the Farmington Public Schools to please rise and let us thank you for coming. Thank you. People from the city of Farmington Hills, will you please stand and be acknowledged? The people from the city of Farmington, will you please rise? Members of the 47th District Court. And members from the Call to Action, or the Children, Youth, and Families Commission. And anybody who has not stood up so far, please stand and we will acknowledge you. I would like to introduce Jim Edson. Jim is runs the ETM program with the City of Farmington Hills Fire Department. So Jim, welcome.
Good morning. I just want to take this opportunity to thank Mitch, the Call to Action Coalition, Chief Unruh, and everyone else here for the opportunity to speak to you once again. What I'd like to do for the next few minutes is simply share some statistics regarding the opioid epidemic in the year 2017. This is an outstanding, this remains an outstanding community to live and work in, but we're certainly not immune from this opioid crisis that has impacted the entire country. And at the end of 2017, our department worked very closely with the Farmington Hills Police Department to gather as much data as we could to determine, what changes or improvements we can make to deal with this opioid epidemic. So in 2017, we had 94 total patients where naloxone, which is otherwise known as Narcan, it's a reversal agent that emergency responders and hospital providers can administer to someone who's suspected of suffering from an opioid overdose. 94 patients in 2017 were administered naloxone. 3 of those patients we had multiple encounters with, including one young man that we encountered 9 times in 2017, another 6, and the third we encountered 2 times. Of those 94 patients, 61 of them were male and 33 were female. The average age, which I think may surprise many, was 38.8 years of age, almost 39. 33 of the 94 were non-residents of either Farmington or Farmington Hills. So with those 94 patients, 148 doses of naloxone was administered. And what we're finding in recent years is it's not just the heroin of old, but now there are many synthetic opioids out there that are much more dangerous for the user and much more difficult for emergency responders to reverse, and that's necessitating us having to give more Narcan than we have in the past. So again, 94 patients, and we had to administer 148 doses of Narcan. Of those 148 doses, 143 were by emergency responders in Farmington Hills, with the other 5 being the mother of one of those patients that we encountered multiple times. 3 doses were administered by our EMTs in the Farmington Hills Fire Department. We have basic life support providers and advanced life support providers, otherwise known as EMTs and paramedics. And the state of Michigan now allows EMTs to administer naloxone. So that was done 3 times in 2017. 20 doses were administered by law enforcement officers, 15 of which we feel directly contributed to lives being saved. So we're very fortunate here in Farmington Hills where when a medical emergency occurs, oftentimes not only is the fire department responding, but law enforcement officers who are on patrol at the time may respond as well. Those officers have training in CPR, first aid, they carry AEDs, and they also have the ability to administer naloxone. And I'm sure the chiefs will speak to that in a few minutes. 47 of those 94 patients met our city's criteria for life-saving efforts. So 47 of those 94 were either not breathing or barely breathing, and due to the efforts of emergency responders, fortunately survived. 2 incidents involved multiple patients, including a husband and wife that overdosed in a vehicle traveling down 696 at the time. And fortunately, they were able to bring the vehicle to a somewhat safe stop, and then when emergency responders arrived, they were able to save both of their lives because neither one of them were breathing when they were finally encountered by emergency responders. Friday was the busiest day, followed by Monday as it relates to overdoses in our community. The police department works 8-hour shifts. They have a day shift, an afternoon shift, and a midnight shift, the day shift essentially being from 7 to 3. The afternoon shift being from 3 to 11, and the midnight shift being from 11 to 7 in the morning. Well, 27 of these overdoses occurred during what would be considered the normal workday, 47 in the afternoon and early evening, and 20 on the midnight shift. No response district was immune throughout the city. So this is not a south end problem or a north end problem or a problem that's specific to certain sections within our community. It's literally everywhere. Locations included homes, hotels and motels, restaurants, drugstores, and the roadway, as I mentioned. The most common were 8 that occurred in hotels and motels, 4 that occurred in drugstores, and 6 that occurred in the roadway. 6 incidents where people were driving under the influence of opioids. The drugstores, it's a common phenomenon where oftentimes people will go into a public restroom, and that's where they'll choose to overdose. And contrary to some of the data that's out there around the country, talking about how prescription medication is more of a problem than heroin or synthetic opioids, that's not necessarily the case here in our region. Of the 94 patients that we encountered, we know for a fact that at least 47 of them definitely involved heroin with the potential for more. So, these are sobering statistics. But again, this is a wonderful community to live in. I think that if not for the efforts of, the police departments doing everything they can to keep these drugs out of our community, and, our department, responding to these emergencies as efficiently as we can, those numbers would be even worse than they are. I thank you again for your time, and I'd now like to introduce Director Frank Demers from the Farmington Department of Public Safety.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. I'd just like to, from the city of Farmington, acknowledge a couple individuals from the city who are with us today. Mayor Pro Tem Sarah Bowman, Deputy Director Ted Worthman, and Commander Justin Dulong. I'll talk about him in a minute. I want to echo Jim's comments, and again, thanks to Mitch Seeley and the coalition members for this annual breakfast. It's great to get together with friends and colleagues this morning and renew our pledge to be advocates for those in the community who are struggling with addiction. I'm going to talk a little bit today about our newest tool in the toolbox in the Farmington and Farmington Hills community to address the opioid crisis, and that's the Hope Not Handcuffs initiative. Some of you in this room are probably familiar with it. But for those of you who are not, it's no secret the Midwest has been hit real hard by the opioid crisis. Michigan is certainly no exception. We've said it before, I'll say it again. We are not going to arrest our way out of this problem. That has been an effort that's been tried and failed. So no arresting our way out of it. So in June of actually step back a few months, I want to say maybe early winter of 2018, a number of Oakland County chiefs were invited to Kego Harbor, where Families Against Narcotics was introducing the Hope Not Handcuffs program. Something that we kind of heard in the wings, kind of waiting in the wings, but really didn't have a whole lot of information on it. And after that hour meeting, I think just about every chief in that room, myself included, was convinced, how do we say no to this? It was something that we simply had to take on as an additional resource to the community to fight this epidemic. So in June of 2018, we all met at Farmington Hills City Hall and did a press conference and officially introduced our cooperation and partnership with the Hope Not Handcuffs program. Chief Nebus in Farmington Hills, my agency, and 12 other agencies were there throughout Oakland County. So what is Hope Not Handcuffs, for those of you who are not familiar? Well, it started about 2 years ago in Michigan, and it's a way to facilitate immediate treatment, and that's the key term there, is immediate treatment for those suffering and seeking help for addiction, whether it be opioid addiction, any other type of narcotic addiction, or alcoholism. So a person seeking the assistance with some type of addiction problem can also often lose that initial commitment in a short period of time. So the idea between Hope Not Handcuffs is to facilitate that treatment right away so they don't lose that feeling of, okay, I need help. Strike while the iron's hot is pretty much the idea behind the initiative. It's critical that placement and meaningful addiction treatment be timely and relevant to the individual. So a person seeking treatment comes to the police department and expresses the intent to seek treatment for their drug or alcohol addiction. The police department then contacts 24/7, 365, a phone number that leads to a representative from Hope Not Handcuffs. That representative from Hope Not Handcuffs then dispatches an angel who is a volunteer and basically receives a few hours of training to facilitate the process of getting this person into treatment. When we did our press conference, the room was full of angels and prospective angels. So again, to echo the thoughts of Jim Etzen, we are a community of resources, and people really came out in full force for this to volunteer. So, it's pretty much understood that within 15 minutes, an angel is going to be at the police department to facilitate treatment for this individual. The angel conducts a brief initial assessment of the patient and arranges for them to be brought to a treatment facility to begin the recovery process. So that happens, and they get him into the facility, and then the question becomes, Well, now what? You got them there. So how do you maintain this treatment plan? Well, the angels are there to help for that too. Upon discharge from treatment, the angels help facilitate sober living for a patient and act as an advocate for the family of that patient through their treatment process. So a lot of involvement through this Hope Not Handcuffs process. It's truly a great resource aimed at getting the addict to the treatment immediately rather than wait and risk the chance of them changing their mind. So again, it's kind of a strike while the iron's hot initiative. It's currently, Hope Not Handcuffs is currently active in 9 counties throughout Michigan, and to date they have helped 1,798 people seek addiction treatment. And we're proud to partner with Families Against Narcotics in offering this life-saving alternative in response to the opioid crisis in our community. And I'm sure we're probably going to hear a little bit more about this from our keynote speaker today. So it's a tremendous program. It costs us zero. So we're proud to have it on board. We'll switch gears a little bit to the Farmington Public Safety's honoree for today's breakfast. Commander Justin Dulong. Commander Dulong is a 20-year veteran of the Farmington Public Safety Department. He served in the Patrol Division, the Detective Bureau, and he's currently assigned as the Special Operations Commander. He is a true advocate for victims of assault, sexual assault. He meets regularly with his victims and provides them with the support and case updates that they so desperately want and need. And he allows them to, this allows him to establish a strong sense of trust with his victims, which is so important in these cases. He's never afraid to take chances and think outside of the box to find evidence to strengthen his cases, as long as it's within the best interests of the victims. And in the last 3 years, there have been many examples of his true hard work and dedication. Just a few that stick out. He successfully secured charges against a local physician who had sexually assaulted one of his patients, and that case was made on DNA collected by Commander Dulong. In another case, he successfully secured charges against an unlicensed massage facility employee who was also a registered sex offender who sexually assaulted a client. And he most recently, after a year of intense investigation, he arrested another individual, a registered sex offender from another community, who attacked a woman last year outside of the Jamestown condominiums, Grand River and Hallstead area. This particular crime generated a considerable amount of fear in the community, fear especially among women that some attacker was on the loose. But the investigation continued. Commander Dulong continued to dig and ultimately identified the suspect and secured charges against that individual. This particular crime, word of the arrest certainly was a welcome relief among the individuals living in the area at the time. These are just a few of the things that Commander Dulong has done to makes him so worthy of recognition today, and I'm proud to recognize him as this year's Call to Action Coalition Award recipient. Commander Justin Dulong.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Can we get a quick picture?
Thank you.
Let's get a quick picture.
Would you like to say a few words?
I'd just like to thank the Call to Action Committee for this honor. Thank you very much. It's one of the reasons why I raised my family here. This is a great city, great place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, Commander. I thank you again for your time this morning and for the opportunity to talk about Hope Not Handcuffs and introduce Commander Dulong as our recipient. I'm now going to call upon Chief Chuck Nevis from the Farmington Hills Police Department.
Good morning, Farmington and Farmington Hills. Thanks for coming out this morning. It's my honor to speak at the breakfast. Thank you to CTAC for all the good work that they do. As a way of just starting, I'd like to introduce a few members of Farmington Hills. Our Mayor, Dr. Ken Massey, is here with us this morning. Our Mayor Pro Tem Richard Lerner is here. Council Member Dr. Teresa Rich is here. and our city manager, Dave Boyer, assistant city manager, Dave Metchkin. And so thank you all for attending. A lot of the department directors and some of my executive staff, thank you all for attending. I have 6 quick topics for you this morning. A little CTAC history. Going to talk a little bit about the opioid problem, the new opioid task force, legalization of marijuana in November, the current snapshot of Colorado, and the recent U of M report about marijuana. A little bit about the CTAC history. You saw on the flyer today, 30 years. Just had to say a few remarks about that. It started out as Farmington Families in Action several years ago. Me and a bunch of moms meeting in a house in northeast Farmington Hills, and Judge Parker was there, and there's a couple of people around the room. Becky Dworkin was back with us in those times. Betty Nicolay was our leader. Some of our early successes were the nationally known House Party Ordinance that was featured in USA newspaper. Hundreds of jurisdictions across the country have now copied it. The early efforts also included a paraphernalia ordinance. And some of the foreign words, if I rewind back, the moms and the people meeting at those early times, we'd never heard of fentanyl and carfentanil and medical marijuana and earwax marijuana and so many other terms we never thought would happen. Esther Lee Michelson took up our cause for many years, and Farmington Public Schools stepped up. Mitch Seeley, thank you for being our leader for picking up the cause in recent years here. Topic number 2, the opioid problem. The Oakland Press this morning, very timely, talks about opioid-related death toll climbs. Nearly 2,000 Michigan residents died from opioid overdoses in 2017. A little bit about the U.S., 72,000 drug overdoses. 30,000 deaths are attributed to fentanyl. What does Michigan look like? More opioid prescriptions than people in the state of Michigan. We have more opioid deaths than we lose people to traffic and gun fatalities combined. Michigan is 15 nationally in deaths. You've heard Jim Etzen talk about use of Narcan in 2017, so I'll just fast forward a little bit to 2018. We haven't combined all of our data for the year yet, but so far this year, just at the Farmington Hills Police Department, we've administered Narcan 25 times. We've had 1 death as a result of an overdose. Topic number 3, new opioid task force. It's called the Southeast Michigan Regional Organized Crime Drug Enforcement Task Force. It's 11 months old. There's several federal agencies involved, and 26 state and local agencies are involved. And the reason I'm talking about it specifically is because we have 3 Farmington Hills police officers involved in this task force. So far, and why were they formed? In the summer of 2017, move over to Novi, our neighbor next door, in a condo. There was the 3rd largest fentanyl seizure in U.S. history. 10 kilos of pure fentanyl were recovered and 88 pounds of heroin. So how's the new task force doing in 11 months? Since our last CTAC breakfast, they've seized 35 kilos of fentanyl, 25 kilos of heroin, and 50 kilos of cocaine. I want to talk a little bit about the crumbs, and you've heard about fentanyl, so dangerous. Even our police officers have to be careful with gloves and not touch it or breathe it or absorb it. Just a few crumbs, can be fatal and cause death. This task force has accumulated enough fentanyl in the past year, this 35 kilos, that they could kill 15 million people in these little crumbs. That's how dangerous these drugs are. So move on to the topic number 4. Recreational marijuana is on the ballot. I'm not going to give you the chief's views this morning. City officials aren't supposed to do that. I'm just going to tell you some of the facts. 2008, medical marijuana was passed by the voters of Michigan. We have a new initiative, the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana, and many activist groups have it on the ballot in November. So I'll just give you a little snapshot of what's on the ballot. You'd have to be 21 to possess or use. You cannot use in a public place. You can have a 10-ounce limit. If you have over 2.5 ounces, you have to keep it locked up. You can have 12 plants you can give as a gift. Don't plan on giving the chief any gifts for marijuana for Christmas or in my stocking. You can't drive under the influence. You can get fired at work. Employers can test you and they can ban employees. Landlords can prohibit it. Schools are off limits. Cities can ban marijuana businesses. There's an excise tax of 10%, and recent television station just covered some of that, but there was no coverage, I noted, of the opposition about what it may not look like according to some groups. So that's a snapshot of what it would look like on the ballot. Mitch Seeley had asked me to talk a little bit about that, and also a little bit about a report from HIDA that Mitch and I talked about. I'm going to read to you just a snapshot of Colorado. And this data is accumulated by a federal agency called HIDA, High Intensity Drug Trafficking Area, and it's the Rocky Mountain HIDA report. The executive summary, this was just published just in September of 2018, so this is very fresh. The first section is traffic fatalities and impaired driving, and this compares, all these comparisons are from Colorado when it was before and what legalization and what it looks like now. Since legalized, marijuana-related traffic deaths have increased 151%. Traffic deaths involving drivers testing positive has more than doubled. This equates to one person killed 2.5 days. Before legalization of marijuana, there was one death every 6.5 days. The percentage of all Colorado traffic deaths that were marijuana-related are up 21.3%. Marijuana use, it's increased 45%. Marijuana uses for ages 12 and older is 85% higher than the national average. Public health, emergency room visits are up 52%. Marijuana-related hospitalizations are up 148%. The black market, so far what's seized the illegal marijuana in Colorado since the legalization, 7.3 tons of marijuana. 43,949 marijuana plants that were headed to 24 different states. Highway seizures of marijuana are up 39%. Colorado marijuana in the U.S. mail system is up 1,042%. Something I'm going to share with you that's not in the report, just an offshoot of some of the role I have with narco-terrorism relationships with the DEA. Even now that I think about it, some of the national television stations have done stories on the drug cartels in Colorado that are taking over just hundreds and hundreds. Some of the cartels have bought as many as 600 residences or buildings where they have illegal marijuana grows. Societal impact, marijuana tax revenue, like what Colorado is bringing in. They're bringing in 9/10 of just 1% of the entire state budget are they collecting from the marijuana taxes. Again, under the societal impact, violent crime is up 18.6%, property crime is up 8.3%. 65% of the local jurisdictions in Colorado have said, no, we don't want medical marijuana, and no, we don't want to have recreational marijuana. In the marijuana industry, the prices have fallen for the cost of marijuana in Colorado have gone from $14.05 a gram to $5.34 a gram. The average potency concentration of the extracts have gone from 56% THC up to 68.6% THC by the end of 2017. There are 491 retail marijuana shops in Colorado. So let's compare that to Starbucks and McDonald's. There's only 392 Starbucks. There's 208 McDonald's, but there's 491 marijuana shops in Colorado. And I have copies before I came up of this report. It's a cool 3 pages. Part of the reason for sharing this is being it on the ballot so you can be an informed voter and make a decision and look at the facts of what Colorado looks like and what Michigan might look like. Topic number 6, the U of M report. Maybe start with something a little more positive. There is some good news. University of Michigan, if you don't like the federal government data, we'll go to the college data. Some good news. Synthetic marijuana use is down, binge drinking is down, tobacco use is at an all-time low. On the negative side, what does U of M study, a nationally known study, say about marijuana? This is also from September of 2018. So we're looking at some very fresh data. Marijuana use amongst college age is the highest in 3 decades. 38% of full-time college students are using marijuana. 41% of high school graduates who are not in college are using marijuana. Only 27% of our youth who are surveyed perceive there's a risk with marijuana, which is the reason for the increase according to the U of M report. There was 3 themes that I saw in this 13-page report that in the document. One is that marijuana, it talked about the detrimental to cognitive functioning, the mental health and depression in young people. It talked about as a reason for poor college academic performance. And the third thing it talked about attributing it to for high dropout rates. So those are the 6 quick topics I wanted to get in. In some of my closing comments, I just wanted to talk about encourage residents. You can call the Farmington Hills Police Department at any time and remain anonymous and report a drug tip. and also report any illegal marijuana grows. They're a nuisance to our neighborhoods. They've caused fires, they've caused electrical stealing, they've caused robberies, they've caused parents who want school bus stops moved because of odors. They've caused residents to complain about hydrophonic fans and traffic and no one living in residences and police activity, so they've been a nuisance. I want to just close with a remark and say, after 30 years, congratulations to everyone involved in CTAC, and thank you for being champions of a cause of alcohol and drug abuse. And also, when Farmington families went to CTAC, we took on domestic violence. We don't have time every year to cover everything, so we remember all the victims of domestic violence and the abuse we have of our community. That's also a problem and a concern. So congratulations, all of you, from the courts, the police, everyone here, and your interest to be here this morning in this very important cause. I'm going to shift gears now and ask Officer Dave Geffert to make his way up to receive a plaque if I didn't break it. Officer Gifford, if you'd stand on my right here. A few comments about Officer Gifford. He's being recognized here today for some work he's done in our sobriety court, some very important work. During the past few years of his career with Farmington Hills, Dave has been assigned to what we call our directed patrol unit. They're in uniform, undercover. They work a variety of topics. They go to all the hot spots and tackle the hot things that are going on in the community. During his 3-year assignment in doing that role, he took on the role, extra work, of being our sobriety court liaison, which means he does home checks, surprise visits on people in the sobriety court program. I see Judge Parker, you're on the program today, so you'll be talking about a little bit more about that program. Dave would make checks at random at people in this program, checking for alcohol and drugs and controlled substances. And accountability is very vital to the recovery of addicts. In 2018, at the like other sobriety court graduations, I noticed something. I noticed the graduates of the program going up and shaking Dave's hand and giving him hugs, thanking him for treating them with respect, for coming to their homes, for encouraging them, for helping them get through the program. I know he's received the accolades of Jackie Jones from our probation department. I think Jackie is here today, and Judge Parker, your fans, and many other fans out here today as well. Why is it so important, the sobriety court? I can tell you that I think our recidivism rate is around 4% for the program that we've had. How does that compare to the rest of the country? You can look at any data in any law enforcement journal, and you'll see that about 50 to 60% of all drunk drivers is the recidivism rate. So we're keeping it from 50 to 60% for most of the country down to 4% with the incredible work that's being done. Dave is a very humble man. He said serving the sobriety court is enriching and empowered him as much with his participation. And who is Officer Geffert? He's a 31-year police veteran. He spent 25 years with the Warren Police Department. When he retired, I was happy to steal him from the Warren Police Department. I was at Dave's last roll call where I watched him address the members of his staff, and I knew that we had a jewel, and he has not let us down. And I think about 5 years have gone by now or so, Dave. Dave is a U.S. Army veteran. He's received countless awards. I won't go through all his career awards, but there's just something that needs to be remarked on. Very few police officers anywhere in the entire country ever received the Medal of Valor. When Dave was with the Warren Police Department, they've only given it out 4 times in the history of their city, and Dave won it twice. The first time was saving the lives of 4 teens who were trapped in a fiery crash. The second time, his undercover work, where he was taken hostage by a renegade motorcycle gang. He received the Medal of Honor, and how's he done in Farmington Hills so far? I don't have time again, but I will acknowledge that he's also receiving a Medal of Honor, one of the very few members of the Farmington Hills Police Department that he will be receiving that. Dave had the experience of encountering a burglar coming out of a business and went into a very serious hand-to-hand combat fight where Dave was stabbed with a screwdriver, arresting a dangerous serial burglar, and Dave will be receiving that honor as well from Farmington Hills. During his career, he's been a patrol officer, a detective, a field training officer, a narcotics officer, undercover officer, 8 years supervising a SWAT unit and a sergeant of that unit. We are very, very proud of your whole career accomplishments and to share all these things with the community and your fine work with the sobriety court. So it's my honor to present you with the Call to Action Award from the Farmington Hills Police Department and CTAC.
Like Chief Nebus said, I have a tendency to be a little bit humble, but he did bring up the Medal of Valor awards that I received throughout my career. But I can tell you, especially the call to action, that this award, this means much more to me than the Medal of Valors that I ever received. It's been an honor to serve, Judge Parker and Jackie Jones, the Sobriety Court. Most of you in the room are familiar with our Sobriety Court, how we work, just simply by the resources that we're given. If you look around this room, we've got our police administration, we've got city hall officials, we've got our council members, we've got the fire department, and we work, all together. Where I came from, yes, we had the same problems in Warren as we did here. We never attacked it like we do here. I'm proud to say that I'm a Farmington Hills resident. I've been more impressed and honored to be a part of the Sobriety Corps program. Somebody said earlier to me that, I had made a difference in people's lives by the role I played in the Sobriety Corps program. But truly, they made a difference, in my life. So, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Chuck, and thank you, Dave. At this time, I would like to recognize both police departments, the City of Farmington Hills Police Department and the City of Farmington Police Department was just awarded the certification from the Michigan Association of Chief of Police, and they went through a lot of work to do this. So, Director Demers, Frank, Assistant Director Ted, will you please stand, and Justin, along with Chief Nebus, and we have the Assistant Chiefs Mike Cementero, Jeff King, and Daniel Rodriguez, and Commander Bonnie Unruh. Will you please stand and let us recognize for the great work you've done? And these are 2 of the 10 police departments that were awarded this certification out of all the cities of the state of Michigan. So congratulations to you. Now I'd like to introduce our main speaker. Her name is Tracy Sharika. She is the coordinator for the Families Against Narcotics through the Alliance of Healthy Communities. Tracy. I'm looking at Teresa. Sorry about that. But she has been very involved of getting the message out about addiction, substance abuse, and going to communities and different coalitions to help do this. So, Tracy, welcome to the Call-Action Coalition Breakfast.
My name is Tracy Chirikis. I am the School and Community Program Manager for the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities. One of the programs that we run and operate is FAN, otherwise known as Families Against Narcotics. We are the chapter for 5 regions currently throughout our county. We have a southeast region that runs in Clawson on the 3rd Monday of the month. We have one known as South Central, which operates here in Farmington. And we've had, it's been a little rocky with the Farmington chapter. So we are looking for a new home and a consistent time because we know this community is tremendously hard hit. That meeting meets on the first Thursday of the month, so we had it last night. We have our central meeting, which is held in Pontiac on the 4th Tuesday of the month. And we have our Northeast North Oakland, which is held in Lake Orion on the 2nd Thursday of the month at the Orion Center. We also have a grief group. The grief group was started as a pilot in Oakland County a year and a half ago, and it started with 2 people. Sadly, that number continues to grow. What I am thankful for is that we have a place for families and loved ones to come work with one another, talk with one another, and embrace one another in a situation that is highly stigmatized. Much like suicide, drug overdoses are super hard for the community to contend with. I got involved with Families Against Narcotics back in 2009. I was an Oakland County resident until 2 years ago, where we moved up to Brown City. Does anybody know where that is? Thank you. So Brown City is 20 minutes north of Imlay City, and I love what I do, so I make the drive back and forth every day to Oakland County. Wouldn't have it any other way, but up until 2 years ago, I'm a lifer Oakland County resident. Getting involved with FAN in 2009 was a direct result of my son struggling with the disease of addiction. As a parent, we look at ourselves two different ways. One is either informed and intelligent, or the other way. I was ignorant to the disease of addiction. I ran inner city housing in the city of Detroit in the early 80s when the crack epidemic was huge. I knew what addiction looked like. My son did not look like that. What I didn't understand is what I was seeing and witnessing on those cities in Detroit was those human beings at their final end, at their desperate side. I didn't get to enjoy who they were before that disease took a hold of their life. We go through experiences in life to grow us and to create a compassion and an empathy. In 2014, Oakland County joined forces. We are a partner with FAN as a county to bring FAN through to Oakland County because our families had to travel to the only FAN meeting, which was held in Fraser at the time. As a parent struggling with the disease of addiction, with absolutely no knowledge of this disease, I made that travel to Fraser anytime, and I would have gone to a meeting every single night of the week if I thought I could help my child. Parents and family members who have loved ones struggling with this disease are at risk ourselves, because this disease has no logic. And as family members, we keep trying to apply logic to an illogical situation. And therefore, during this process of addiction, we become very, very sick. Through the great programs such as sobriety courts, which I am such a firm believer in, I also consider it to be a privilege and an honor to be a part of the drug court system. When you listen to family members at your meetings begging judges to get into your program, you know we're struggling. You know that we're hanging on by our fingertips. I never thought I'd see a day when families would ask for their child to be arrested just so that they could keep them alive. It has been just absolutely flabbergasting to me to watch how this process works. In 2014, when we brought forth this program, it was a slow move here. There was trust issues, right, with family. We don't know who to trust. We want to isolate. We don't want to connect. We don't want you to know that we're not as good as. We place our own judgments on ourselves. So when our loved ones come back from treatment, and so I had heard you talk about the additional treatment options, when we get people into treatment, that's just the first step. My first time going around being ignorant when my son went into treatment for a prescription pill addiction, which, by the way, I had no comprehension of because I didn't think that could happen. My exposure to prescription medications were antibiotics. I'm in that age group. So when my son was issued Vicodin in the 10th grade for a simple tonsillectomy, I thought, wow, technology has really improved. They are going to minimize his pain at a faster rate, and this is just fascinating. No one explained to me that there could be addictive properties associated with this. And then, to be honest, to the medical profession, I'm not sure I would have understood what that meant. So sometimes when we're in these places, we need to break things down so that we understand what that means. In his senior year, he was given Oxycontin, a 90-day prescription for Oxycontin for a splay. He had splayed his hand open and severed his tendons through a plate glass window. And as I sat in the emergency room with his hand splayed back, the doctor said, he is going to be in tremendous pain. And I believed every word. I'm sitting there watching all of the glass being picked out and then them taking a scrub brush, yes, a scrub brush like what you would know, and scrub out his hand. So when they issued the Oxycontin, 90-day supply with a 90-day refill, I had no idea what I was in for. That was in the fall of 2007. He did graduate from high school in 2008. He was a star MVP soccer player. He is charismatic beyond belief, but as you stated, and as judge and probation officers know, these are great human beings. They're sick, and they need help to get better. Hope Not Handcuffs was brought through it started in our county about a year ago, February. Might have been February 2018, I think, when we all met at Kego Harbor. So there are various policing agencies that have partnered with Hope Not Handcuffs. That is a unique program. It was developed by PARI in Gloucester. I can never say that word. And brought here to Michigan and modeled in Macomb County. But also, it first launched in Macomb and then was brought here to Oakland. We also have the sheriff's program, the Rides for Recovery. Same thing applies. You can turn yourself in to any sheriff's department and you can receive treatment. They'll give you a ride right to the sober support unit. And then we also have the sober support unit. We are the only county who has this program. Have any of you heard about the sober support unit? The sober support unit is a 24/7 center where they will receive access, they will be assessed, and they will be kept comfortable until a rehabilitation bed is found for them. Timing for placement is within 24 hours in Oakland County. It is the same place as the Crisis and Resource Center, and they do have space to handle the critical time needs as well. That is super close to my heart. When we brought FAN over to Oakland County, we addressed the gaps that existed here for our individuals and families struggling with addiction. Under the Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities, I am like really perched all of a sudden. The Alliance of Coalitions for Healthy Communities is a 19 community coalition prevention organization. Thank you. We are the largest organization in Oakland County. We are funded by Oakland Community Health Network, and we also have a grant through Drug Free Communities. Underneath there, these are your experts. So we have FAN, and then we have school programming. We bring programs into your schools for free. We are working with Farmington's youth assistant at present to bring in, keep them safe, keep them healthy. What that does is that works with your students, and we evaluate and bring back both qualitative and quantitative data for administration. Your kids, thank you to our youth who are here today. They know what's going on. They know where your hot spots are. They know the buzzwords and why things are happening. On your tables today, I did put some information for you on marijuana because as a parent living through this opioid nightmare, understand that once a person suffers with the disease of addiction, our lives are forever altered. They don't come home and they're cured and we're done and we're moving forward, our lives are forever altered. We don't get to experience things the same way as others do. My concern from a prevention organization as well as a group of FAN, are we prepared for this? We certainly weren't prepared for what occurred with the prescription drugs, correct? I don't think we're prepared. We have families meeting at our FAN groups currently who are struggling with marijuana addictions. Problem is they can't get treatment or it's not recognizable because there's no detox involved. We need to pay attention and we need to work together as a community on how we're going to help these families. That is my concern. Is there enough dollars to handle what's coming? Marijuana use is used by the younger, but it's also shared because of our age group, 50 and above. This is not the pot of yesteryear. This is the most genetically modified product on the market. It's not regulated. As the statistics were shared, it's completely not monitored. I hope you remember that when you go to the polls. Again, I'm not allowed to lobby either, but I'm advocating and put materials on the table. Through FAN and through the Alliance of Coalitions, we received the Narcan grant this year to do community-wide training. When the United States Surgeon General stated that all community members should have Narcan and Narcan training, we immediately went into action. That contract went into place October 1, and Wednesday night, which was October 3rd, I had the honor of training 95 Oakland University nursing students in Narcan. Out of those 95 young people in college settings, 85 of them were directly impacted by the disease of addiction. They had a loved one and somebody still struggling with the disease. On your table, I did put a schedule for all of your community trainings for Narcan. You just need to register for any one of these trainings. There's one right here in Farmington, going to be led by Jim himself on December 6th. Last year, Jim conducted our Narcan training as well. It was a snowstorm, remember? I think it was December 5th. There was a snowstorm, and we had a packed house. 75 people filled that room to receive this critical training. As our police and fire have shared, you don't know where and when an overdose is going to occur now. It could be the fast food bathroom. It could be in your office lobby. We don't know. But it's better to be prepared and help save a life. Of course, that training is pretty extensive. When you come to that training, you will receive a Save a Life kit, which includes Hope Not Handcuffs information, the Sober Support Unit information, as well as 2 doses of the nasal Narcan, 4 milligrams each per dose. So our goal is to help our law enforcement and our first responders save their resources or have enough resources to revive that life. Vaping has become the #1 topic. I know we're in an opioid crisis, but vaping is #1 buzzword across the nation. And it's across our schools. You guys know it is, right? It's a way of fitting in. It's a way of belonging where we once didn't have that opportunity. Please check out our website at the achcmi.org. I did leave my business cards up there as well. We are doing multiple vaping presentations. We welcome anyone to come to those. The more knowledge we have, the better. They look like little thumb drives that go into your computer. They're smaller than my thumb drive here. They look innocent, but they're actually not. But as parents, you are the first one your youth are going to come to. It is #1 on our survey results. Parents are #1, Friends are number 2. We feel that we're educating the friends through our presentations at the school. But parents, I'm really alarmed. We are seeing a decreasing participation in our parents attending educational meetings. Don't be too busy to come to these presentations. None of us are equipped to deal with everything that this generation is bringing forth. They're intelligent, and we need to keep right up with them. Other than that, we have other programs up on the table. I did bring the opiate toolkit for everyone in the family, and then this resource guide. I think, Jim, how many did I bring over to you? Like a box, 500? So this resource guide was designed with the process in mind of what you do to help an individual. So if you open it, it talks about the Alliance, who we are, but then it talks about the Sober Support Unit. Every and all family can go through the Sober Support Unit, even if you do have insurance. I want to dispel the myth that you can only go to the Sober Support Unit if you are low income. That is not true. They have funds available, and if you know anything about families who have struggled with addiction, our copays are through the roof, and we have become financially bankrupt as well as emotionally bankrupt. The county has funds to help them offset that. But then you can go right through here if you don't want to, and we have set it up in the logical sequence of what needs to occur. We started, because of Keep Them Safe, Keep Them Healthy, our youth programming, we did add adolescent treatment as well. That's my statistics run right up with yours. We had 312 overdoses so far in 2018 in Oakland County. That's 312 too many. And we have trained the West Bloomfield School Administration on Narcan training. That doesn't mean, as Jim said, that these are bad communities. These are great communities to live in. We're just being very proactive now. We have to be proactive. We have to keep people alive in order to get them treatment. That is what it's all about. And increasing and giving people a better quality of life. I thank you so much for this time this morning. I apologize that my PowerPoint wasn't up and working. I do have a program for recovery people. We're pretty proud of it. It's called Resolve, and that is the now what. After treatment, we connect them into a 16-week intensive course, or through the drug courts, it's a little bit more adaptable. Through drug courts, and I hope I'm not stealing judges, they have a lot to do for that program, and rightfully so. But we have another program that complements and comes back for them to help them put their life back together in all of the phases that are broken through the process. That program is called Resolve, and there are pamphlets up on the table over there. I thank you so much. I thank our first responders. I thank our law enforcement. I thank our youth for being here. I thank the Call to Action Committee for bringing forth all of these community members. I am super excited to have the drug court here to hear what they're doing in Farmington Hills and Farmington. And it's just a pleasure to be with you this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Can we give her another hand here, please? I want to thank everyone who spoke today. I want to thank you for coming to the breakfast. And have a great weekend, and go green and go blue. So have a great day.